Hey everybody, let's go through some tones with the Creature with some various different guitars, show how to dial it in for different pickups, different sounds, different genres, and also I've got the Shred 3D here on the floor, so I'm going to be showing some sounds with that as well. So I'll do a little bit of playing, a little bit of explanation, but most of this is just showing the tones and the capabilities of these very wide-ranging and awesome pedals from Fuzz Imp. So you notice the Creature has a really good gated character. This is achieved by playing with the squish and gate knobs quite a bit. Now there is a little paper that comes inside the box with most Creatures that shows to point all four knobs towards each other. This is really close to that, just kind of not quite as choked up with the settings shown here. But we're in the bridge humbucker position on this Eastwood Sidejack. So unlike a lot of fuzzes and distortions, the Creature actually has a lot of clarity in the upper strings, even when you've got a nice chunky sound going in the low strings, like with a palm muted rhythm. But then you still have the high string definition. But it's still tight and gated. Now some customers and players have noticed there is a slight staticky thing. That's because the gating is achieved by playing with the bias and multiple points in the circuit. That's why the squish and gate both affect it. Now if you loosen up on the gate and put it up closer to noon, you're going to get a lot more noise. Like I said, play with the squish and one other thing that you want to notice on the Creature as it's set right now is that the clang is very low. So the clang circuit is super unique, and if you didn't realize, the Creature is actually two pedals. So it's a harmonic percolator based, which is kind of an overdrive fuzz, but it has a slight sub-octave feel to it, which is why the Creature can get so many different textures. And then there's a gated distortion fuzz, loosely based on the Fuzz Factory, that's the other four knobs. There's some values for both of the circuits that are hardwired internally, and in the case of the clang, the volume is set actually above unity, and what you're controlling with that clang knob is the gain on that percolator circuit. So when it's set low, it's a lot closer to an overdrive, which is where we're getting the tightness in the low strings and getting some of that extra clarity and that three-dimensional feel that the Creature has. A lot of that comes from that clang circuit being in play. Now as you increase clang, it's also going to add a lot more noise because it's adding a lot of gain to a circuit, and because it's, two fuzz circuits stacked. So sometimes what you'll want to do is play with the fuzz, which is the gain control for the second stage, and the clang to achieve some of the different textures. So you can even run fuzz at 0 and still get some cool sounds. So still gated, still cool, and like I said, fuzz 0, it sounds great. And you'll hear as I increase the clang, some of that sub-octave harmonic content increasing. Now that is a byproduct of the harmonic percolator circuit, and actually one of the cooler aspects of it, and it makes this kind of compressed wall of sound. coil tap, and it's still not overly noisy, even running straight into the amp. But as you increase the fuzz and decrease the gate, obviously you're going to get play with those squishing gates. And if you max, one important note, if you min the clang, it'll cut signal completely. So it shouldn't be making any noise. It's one quirk of the pedal. It will work, you just have to get just a little bit of circuit going. So yeah, like I said, just carefully play with the squish and gate to get that gated feel that we're getting in the room. And also when playing a gated fuzz, make sure to use plenty of attack. So that's a little bit on the creature with this guitar. Let's play with the Shred 3D for a bit. So it's got 6 controls. The top 3 are the gain, tone, and volume. Now on this pedal, the volume can actually increase the gain, and actually the tone can as well, because they're kind of active the way they work in this circuit, and it is based on the Shred series. So that's important to remember. And then below, you've got 3 bands of EQ. You've got a 90 hertz, it's pretty lean and pretty specific. It's got a narrow Q. You've got scoop, which is to the left is scooping 200 hertz or boosting it, which gives you a net gain of clarity or warmth with that knob. And then the mid is an active mid at 1K, and that cranked will give you chainsaw, and scooped gives you kind of this nice, pleasant, kind of like Fendery bloom kind of a thing. So we'll just run through a couple sounds on the Shred 3D as shown. So right now we're playing clean through the Wangs 1987 HH clean platform. The channels are jumpered and set really low. This is an alternative to what used to be the main demo amp by Marshall Origin, since this is now modded to JCM 800 pre. So that's what's going on with these two. Let's play with the Shred 3D a little bit. Set. It's got just a little bit of noise to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crank the volume, and you'll hear that gain saturation really start to tune up fast. All Fuzz Imp pedals, if it's in a high gain, high noise kind of a setting, just turn it off when you're not using it. I mean, even some of my favorite creature settings, you know, these switches are rated for millions of cycles, so you are totally fine to use the button to tame it. But yeah, let's dial in the HM2-ish thing that it does, which is quite a bit of, well, I'll just adjust it as I'm talking. So lots of low, lots of mid, good amount of volume. We're just going to back that off just a little bit. Minimize the tone. What that's going to do is warm up a little bit of the harshness that comes in the nasal honk that comes from the mid control. Now what we should have here is something kind of resembling an HM2. It's not the same thing at all, but it gets you in the ballpark and is really cool into gain amps. volume, it is overall reducing the gain and saturation. This is kind of nice if you want something slightly tighter, but it's not going to be nearly as punchy and saturated. Call like a metalcore sound. One of the things I'm going to do is drop the gain down low and bump the mid, the scoop up in the mid, leave the mid there, back the tone off a little bit. So what this is going to do, what I just set up, is I'm going to run the creature into it, and it's actually going to soften the impact slightly. This works really good with other kinds of drive pedals that might be a little harsh, and this is kind of the same philosophy as what players used to do when they would play older Marshalls that had just a touch of dirt to them. This pedal is also really responsive to volume. Something similar, maybe even make it even more scoop. So that's kind of cool. Let's switch guitars for a minute. Let's go to the Strat and pull some different textures out of that. Pedal, I think the key to understanding the creature is just realizing how interactive all those knobs are. To change fuzz, that's going to raise the overall noise floor, so you're going to want to change some other things. What I've got here is my trash caster, which is in E standard. Right now we're on the neck P90. Obviously you've got a really nice tone there. The Eastwood had passive humbuckers, and this one has passive pickups as well, but a different set. And then the bridge is a Hot Rails, which is ceramic, pretty warm. dynamic range. We'll play with the creature a little bit. One of the things that I've had questions from players on is how do I dial in stuff for single coils? So we'll make sure that the creature's handling it nicely. So one thing to remember is that with single coil pickups, you don't really want to roll the volume back on a gated fuzz because the signal from the guitar is not going to punch through the gates or the bias as well. It's going to end up a little bit spitty. So what we'll do is we'll play with fine-tuning the squish and gate with the right amount of clang and fuzz, because you really don't want too much, right? Just right. Now, results may vary, and also some guitars, especially single coil guitars, aren't shielded well at all. This does have shielding under the pick guard. It is important to remember that, you know, a high gain, high noise pedal can potentially create problems for you in a studio if you have bad power, lighting, if you're too near your screens or your cell phones, that will produce interference. But, you know, with these settings at least, this is fine on a single coil. You notice as I was increasing the fuzz, it started to self-oscillate nicely. So in this case, what I'd probably do is play with the gate just a little bit, squish just a little bit, dial those in just a bit. Hear that three-dimensionality to the creature because of the two circuits, the way they're interacting, and that was a big part of the magic of what makes this pedal so good. I would definitely recommend low clang settings and probably fuzz below noon, but we'll crank up both and see what happens. Noise, right? Play with gate, play with squish. If you crank squish all the way with a high clang setting, it does some really interesting glitchy stuff. It'll actually like choke and cut notes in and out. On a crazy setting, gate, squish, clang, fuzz, make them all face each other. Volume to taste. Unity for humbucker guitar should be around noon. Depending on some settings, if it's really choked out, you may want to increase or decrease the level. Look, totally controlled. You'll notice that I'm digging in pretty hard, especially on the bridge pickup. But just in general, with a gated fuzz, it's an acquired taste, an acquired learning curve. You want to hit pretty hard and have max volume on stuff like this. Like it's a little bit too choked up, so what I would do is decrease the gate just slightly. Now, there are some possible combinations where you can have gate at 0, but it's really touchy and takes some practice to find them. Like that squish control has like 4 different things it does between about 6 and max. That's one of the things about Creature that I want to communicate with this video, is that there is a little bit of method to the madness with it. Because if I start playing with squish, you'll notice right away how crazy it gets. So I'm listening to what the pedal is doing to dial in these different. But there is some possible sounds. If you run fuzz really low, there is some potential like kind of clangy overdrivey stuff. But if you go max squish, max clang here, then here, or just shy of max on clang, okay, and then play with the fuzz, you should be getting really cool octave glitches. Like it'll make your guitar sound broken. Again, you get lost on a crazy setting, start dialing stuff back towards noon, and you'll get something very usable. Creature in particular was designed with the intention of having a wide range of cool textures. One of the practical limitations of that is that there are combinations of sounds that just won't play nicely, and or are happy accidents rather. Like some people want the noise and kind of the chaos. For some, it's like shoegazy stuff that's like real kind of open and freeing. So like. Bump that squish up just a little bit, you get control back. So I think that's going to do it for this demo. I hope that you guys are able to better understand these two offerings from Fuzz Imp a little bit, kind of a behind the scenes from the maker that hopefully should guide you and help you understand these two pedals more, because I think they are really cool. But, you know, there's a little bit to them, and I think it's going to be fun for everyone, you know, getting a better understanding of what these pedals are truly capable of, and starting to kind of explore some of that wild sonic territory that I think is really super enjoyable. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Fuzzimp.com to snag either of these or both for yourself. Thank you much. Justus out.